Hello everybody and welcome back to Checkpoint Radio. My name is James and I'm joined by Ben and Connor, and in today's episode we're taking a look at the best games of 2023 in our Game of the Year special. Lots to discuss in this episode, including some big omissions from the Game Awards, and we get into our favourite releases of the year and which ones we think are truly deserving of the title Game of the Year. Before that, gentlemen, good to see you as always. Feels a little bit weird today because we're recording this on a Friday. How are we all doing, Ben? How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Not much to report, really. I've been making my way through the Gears of War franchise this time around. That's been lots of fun. After our last episode and we discussed cloud gaming, I then completed Gears of War 2, 3 and Judgment all through the Xbox Game Pass cloud service, and it was a great experience. But jumping from cloud to Gears of War 4, actually like locally installed, playing it on keyboard and mouse, widescreen support, it was like I'd suddenly jumped literally 10 years into the future and was now gaming properly again. It was quite the jump, but it was fun. I didn't really enjoy Gears of War 4 though, to be honest, but I'm playing Gears of War 5 and that is really good. So.
I never played the 4, but 5 is excellent. It's a really good game.
4 just lost. Sorry, I was just going to say, 4 just, to me, like, it was good. And we discussed it, you and I, earlier, James, today, about, obviously, the Coalition coming on board, taking a massive torch from Epic Games, and then trying to deliver something that, one, the fans will love, but two, them doing their own thing, and so on. So it's a real difficult situation to be in. So I really commend what they did do, because they didn't fuck it up. They still made a good game. But they did, in 4... personally, they lost, or they didn't manage to capture the essence of what made Gears of War Gears of War. Gears of War 1 to 3 is rugged and intense and explosive and fucking mental, whereas with Gears of War 4 it was very sort of like staged and scripted. You'd fight a certain amount of enemies and then it'd be like, oh, here's level 2, and then find like the next level up, and then you'd finally fight the boss, and it was super formulaic, and it was very structured, and it wasn't it wasn't gritty, and it was gory, obviously, but it wasn't harsh and intense and like holy fuck. It was just, I don't know, it was like a safe bet. Then honestly, jumping onto 5, first mission, it was like boom, here we go. This is the Gears of War you know and love. It was mental, action packed, intense, tight, gritty, gory, explosive, everything, and it was like, holy shit, this is what 4 should have been. Yeah, it was so good. And I've actually been playing it co-op with my brother, which is even awesomer.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like 4 was maybe the Coalition just like easing themselves into the franchise a little bit, you know, taking it easy, try not to go too full sort of gun-ho with it, through fear of what people might think, but yeah, they definitely got their feet under the table with 5, which is just a fantastic game, and what like a technical achievement as well, running at native 4K 60 FPS on this current gen of console. I don't know if there's any AAA game that can do that, to be honest. They're all like checkerboard, upscaling some sort of technology in, but native 4K, I don't think people realise how hard it is to drive a game at native 4K 60 FPS. That's some real achievement from them.
Really big time. And like it might be easy enough to get a game in 4K, but that comes with graphics, and the game is absolutely gorgeous. Like, you can get a 4K image and look at that on your phone, but to run a game that looks good in 4K at 60 FPS, that's an achievement. So yeah, great game, really enjoying it. And then I'll be finishing off the cherry on top, maybe, with Gears Tactics, which is like their XCOM.
Nice.
But I'm going to play the 2 at the same time.
Apparently it's quite good.
I started it today. Feels quite nice. It's sort of very much like XCOM. I mean, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They have a great formula, so they've just taken that. They have adapted it and changed it, but it's basically just Gears of War XCOM, which is totally fine. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Connor, what about you? What have you been up to this week?
I've had a half week at work, so it's been quite nice and refreshing, actually.
Lovely
Excuse
stuff.
me. I've weirdly jumped onto Fortnite.
I saw that.
I'm like really enjoying it, and like I wasn't into Fortnite whatsoever whilst it's been out. But they put that 0 build out, and I was just had the feelings play a battle royale the other day. I was like, I'm not going on PUBG. It's too bloody clunky. COD sucks. And then I thought I'll try Fortnite out, and I just spent like 3 or 4 hours on there. Like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah, it's
like,
surprisingly fun, isn't it?
Head and shoulders above everything else.
Yeah,
and then they had like the biggest day of their career, like 6 million people on or something ridiculous. So
yeah,
it's really good. And then played Risk of Rain Returns.
Oh, nice.
Which is just another great game this year, and I'm just like, what's going on? It just like shadow dropped out of nowhere, I felt like, and it's fantastic.
So I've played Risk of Rain, but what is Risk of Rain Returns?
It's like a
sequel.
reskin of I think the first Risk of Rain, I think.
Oh, okay.
So it's just
sort of like a remaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just more content, and it's like I think they've changed the graphic style slightly, and it's like a roguelike. But it's great. It's just jump in and do runs. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's a perfect game to jump on, do 20 minutes, and then.
I've played Risk of Rain 2, and that's like a 3D, like over-the-shoulder third-person thing. So I'd never played Risk of Rain 1. I thought Risk of Rain 1 was just like Risk of Rain 2, but I didn't realise Risk of Rain 1 was a roguelike Metroidvania.
Yeah, it's like Dead Cells or Enter the Gungeon, stuff like that. It's great. Just go on, do 15, 20-minute runs and collect things, and just incredible soundtrack. And I was just
that's on the wish list.
I picked it up the other day. I can't remember. I saw someone play it on YouTube. Looked at it and went, "Oh, that looks great," because I love games like that. And then it was like 13 quid or something. So jumped on, and then I lost like 2 hours. I was like, I can't do this. I've got like a backlog of games already to touch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The problem with starting new games is that it just adds to the pile of uncompleted games that you've got already.
That's
Yeah, pretty chill.
First world problems.
How about yourself, James?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a quite busy week actually. Just been working a ton. Taking on a new project at work. I don't really want to get into it, but yeah, I've been real busy at work, so I haven't really had much time to sort of chill out, play games. Just been playing a bit of Ultimate Team here and there, FIFA, or well, FC24 as it's now called.
Of course.
Mate, this game is just like, it's just cancerous. I hate it so much, but I can't stop playing it because obviously I love football. It's the only viable football game out there at the moment.
Yeah.
I say viable, doesn't stop it from being a mess of a game and a broken piece of shit, but here we are. And
you literally said today that you were gonna. I'm not playing it anymore.
Then he sends video clips 2 seconds later,
but
and
actually,
I've just scored this goal.
yeah. I was like saying, I was just moaning. I'm never playing Ultimate Team again. This is so broken. There's so many busted mechanics and people exploiting the game. But I played another game, scored 2 goals directly from a corner, and I was like, what is this game? This game is just so stupid. But
every sports
it's just one of those games. You know?
Every sports game is the same, and it's barring like MLB The Show, which is traditionally usually really, really good. Like NBA 2K is just, you've monetized to all hell.
Yeah.
EA FC's the same, Madden's the same, NHL sucks. And it's like they're just targeting these like tribal people that love their sport, and then just take the money out of everything they do. And they suck.
I really feel like Ultimate Team as like a standalone game should be a free experience now. I don't know why that's still part of a paid, well, obviously we do know why it's still part of a paid thing, because they make so much money from it, people are going to buy it. But I'm hoping that EA could go the way of Konami and just release some sort of free-to-play standalone version of Ultimate Team of sorts, because you're paying £70 for the game, and then just the amount of monetization in it, like you say, Colin, the amount of like, by a lot of like the game revolves around like building this dream squad with these cards that you get from packs and stuff like that. And you can earn packs in the game, obviously, but there's so much of it is like buy packs. Oh, here's a squad building challenge. You need this amount of players or this rated squad. Quickest way to do that, buy packs. It's like everything is just like fast forwarded by buying stuff, and that's why so many people spend the money, because they just want to have the best teams and compete at the highest level. And spending money definitely helps you do that. But it's no surprising really that all this fucking loot box and shit like that is like EA's bread and butter, because they pretty much invented that shit. They like basically come up with that when they started Ultimate Team all those years ago. It was like their thing that they brought into the fucking gaming world, and it's obviously changed so much about.
They don't care.
Pretty much, yeah. It's banned in some countries, I think,
Yeah.
like the pack openings and stuff like that.
They drag your nuts across the face every time you sell a player because it goes, oh, by the way, EA have taken 5% of your profit. I was like, why are you taking 5%?
Why are you taking 5% of this digital currency that you just don't need? Yeah, it's kind of bullshit.
We're just going to take what we want. Yeah.
So yeah, long days at work and then long days at work and then trying to chill out. A couple of games on Ultimate Team and getting more stressed. So
that's the way to live. Tablets.
But yeah, I did actually. It was my birthday last weekend, and my brother bought me Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. So I've tried to play it, but I really want to give it like a lot of time to sort of get into it because I've sort of been playing it in fits and starts. But I've maybe played around 2 or 3 hours so far, and it's a really good game. Like, it's not reinventing the formula they kind of come up with the first one, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, you can just tell it's just going to be a solid experience, like great story, great characters. So looking forward to getting.
I can't get over I've seen the clips of just like the fast traveling, and it's like that's nuts. How quick it is.
Well, I'll tell you what, the speed you can swing around the city in this one, like you don't really need fast traveling. You can absolutely tear around the city, and you've got like web wings now as well, so you can sort of fly for a little bit. So it's kind of cool. You know, the traversal is like really improved actually. It's really cool now. But yeah, that's all I've been up to. Not really much to report. Same as you guys. Been a pretty quiet week in terms of gaming, but busy for work. Same old stuff. But anyway, I thought we'd just move swiftly on to the main chunk of the show. As we all know, we're coming towards the end of the calendar year, so that means the Game Awards. Jeff Keighley's pride and joy. The Game Awards is a big sort of thing that people kind of talk about and discuss. And for a lot of people, I feel like they think that the Game Awards is the definitive sort of, if a game's won an award at this ceremony, that's legit. You know, it's like the equivalent of, I don't know, the Academy Awards or whatever, the Oscars for movies.
That's it. It's kind of become the authority, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of has, but it's strange branding. Because there's, great branding, but it's strange because there's a lot of other award ceremonies out there, and to be honest, like you shouldn't really be letting a ceremony decide whether you think a game's worthy of that title or not.
Early on in the year, we went over the BAFTA Game Awards, or BAFTA, and it's like BAFTA is a prestigious event, especially in like England. And like it's actually covering video games, and I think at some point the Oscars are things to do with video games. But Jeff Keighley comes out and he goes, "Oh, it's the Game Awards. I know Kojima," and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is our Oscars." I was like, "What? Fucking
yeah." Well, it's strange because there's a lot of like mainstream chatter about the Game Awards this year, and I feel like it's going to be a big one. And I'm not sure what it is, but it just feels like because we've had such a big year for gaming. You know, we go back to 2022. Last year, it was a barren year for video games. There was nothing coming out. It was dead. But it seems like this is the first time a lot of the developers have kind of gotten over the hurdles of COVID. They're now ready to release their games, so they're just all coming at once. And there was maybe one point during the year where we were thinking, well, there's all these games slated for 2023. Are we actually going to see them? We're going to get more delays. Are they going to release broken? But it turns out it's been actually a very, very good year for games, which has caused a hot debate on social media, if you keep up with that stuff. So the ceremony, the Game Awards actual ceremony, is going to take place on the 7th of December in Los Angeles. And the main Game of the Year nominees are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate are leading the nominations with 8 each, including Best Game, Direction, Best Narrative, Game of the Year. Truly deserving of that. But I thought we'd just discuss the games, not necessarily all the games on this list, but the games we think deserve to be in this conversation, because it's a hot topic. You know, people love talking about Game of the Year, and people get real fucking tribal about this shit as well. They love to argue about why this game's better than that game.
I've seen
and it's
Xbox
hilarious.
Conspiracy theorists out there already.
Yeah, well, we'll get onto Starfield in a bit because that's actually quite an interesting topic. But I thought we'd start with talking about probably the two biggest games of the year. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 was an absolute fucking cultural and commercial hit when it arrived. Like, we're talking about a tabletop RPG inspired turn-based, RPG. And it's not a game that many people would consider themselves fans of the style. Yeah. But so many people ended up buying and playing this game.
Millions.
Yeah.
I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 was kind of like that. It kind of... The studio Larian were quite a small studio in comparison to most AAA studios. So then when they came out with this absolute behemoth of a game, and it was a great game too. Obviously, it was in early access for a number of years, so players have been playing this game for a while. But obviously, as it was coming close to its launch and the hype was starting to build up for like version 1.0 or whatever, and then when they actually released the game, delivered on their promises, maybe even like overpromised, and people were quite literally losing their mind at the ability of a small studio in comparison to most AAA studios, creating a game that most AAA studios could not and have not produced or made in the past.
And
so it's quite
so as well.
Yeah, so it's quite an epic story of like the small guys creating something absolutely monumental and getting the recognition that they deserve for a project well done, quite literally. So there's not really much of a bad word you can say about Baldur's Gate, really, when you consider how much they've done, how small their studio is in comparison. Obviously, we're not talking like one guy, 10 guys. We're talking like a big team still. But they've created something that is quite literally
it's
industry changing, isn't it?
It's the perfect sort of underdog story because they were on the brink of collapse a few years ago. They were very open about it. And this has come about, and it's had developers around the industry shitting themselves, going, by the way, that's not the standard of video games. It's like, yeah, it should be. You've got 10 times more employees than they have. 5 times the budget. What are you talking about?
I mean, you got studios like Bungie that are laying off staff and, you know, dragging Destiny 2 by its fucking balls to get it to a point where people are trying to come back to it. They've got 700-800 employees, I think, maybe even more than that. Maybe even more than that.
Had over 1,000, yeah.
Well, there you go. And then, you know, Larian, like we say, it's not a small studio, but in comparison to some of these other studios like Bungie and then, you know, like any of the Call of Duty makers, for example,
you name it,
pales in comparison. So what they've managed to achieve, and probably on a much smaller budget as well, it deserves the recognition. So it's no kind of like surprise that it's been nominated. And we talk about studios nearly going under. The other game that people have talked about in the Game of the Year debate that I've mentioned already, Alan Wake 2, Remedy went through exactly the same situation. They almost fucking went under as well. But a game that was, again, made by a relatively small studio in comparison to other AAA studios on a much smaller budget than a lot of AAA games, have created something that I think is it's just an entertainment masterpiece. Like,
it really is.
Because they've managed to really bridge a gap between sort of that live action cinematic stuff and telling like a real strong narrative, change the way narratives can be told in storytelling in this package of a you know, best in class, especially in terms of like graphics and technical and stuff like that, presentation wise, video game. Like we haven't really seen anything on the level of Alan Wake 2's like technical achievements to date. It's probably the most next gen looking game in existence at the moment.
When Alan Wake 2 released their what's it called? Sorry, the technical requirements, the requirements of what kind of PC you'll need to be running to run this game, people were kind of taken aback because these requirements were insane. The systems that you need to maybe run the game on the highest top settings was quite fucking eye-watering expensive PC level. But honestly, like, the game looked absolutely phenomenal. It was like the first time you played GTA 5 and you started to see their shirt creasing and when they're getting their shirt wet in the water and they walk
Michael's
out.
flip-flops actually flipping and flopping when he's walking. That was crazy. I remember seeing that.
Yeah,
like,
it was...
what the hell?
And it was the same level of like, oh my God, another studio has done it again, taking graphics to a whole new level. Like, it was one of those kind of games where, you know, you've got movies out there that you could almost freeze frame any moment within the film. Like Her comes to mind.
Yeah, and it's like a piece of art.
Yeah, exactly. And the amount of screenshots that we'd sent each other, James, especially just from moments that you'd stop and stare at the fucking gorgeous vista or something, or creepy New York City or anything. The whole game was just a visual masterpiece, as well as an incredible story. Absolutely.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we don't want to kind of underplay it. That this is not just a game that looks great.
Yeah.
The narrative, the delivery of the narrative in this game is absolutely best in class.
Oh, I mean, the one thing that this game has done that maybe other studios haven't done today is they've created something called the Remedy Connected Universe. So if you've played Alan Wake 1, obviously Alan Wake 2 is a sequel and comes straight afterwards. But there's a game called Control, which I'm sure lots of you at home have probably heard of it, which is within the same universe of Alan Wake, which expands upon the events of what's happened in Alan Wake, as well as like tying it in to a global story and actually explaining that there's a whole lot more going on with these objects of power and stuff that's happening in the world. So having like a whole different game that ties in with your universe, that has completely different characters in, but it's all tied in together in the same story, in the same world, at the same time. And then it's like when you're playing Alan Wake 2, but you have the knowledge of everything from Alan Wake 1 and Control, and like, oh, that's from Control, and I recognise him.
Sheds a new light on the game, doesn't it? It makes the experience so much more kind of like rewarding when you've got prior knowledge of those games. Because there's even in Quantum Break, Quantum Break, another Remedy game, is not considered part of the so-called RCU, but you can see so many Easter eggs in Quantum Break that reference stuff in Alan Wake 2 and Control, and it's like the fucking forward thinking of Remedy. This is not by accident. This has been in the planning for years, and we know that because there's Easter eggs for games that haven't been released yet in the old games when you go back and play them.
Exactly.
So like, I mean, this whole big grand plan they've got to create this connected universe. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't really seen anything like this in gaming before. I know there are a lot of games out there where the developers say, oh yeah, well, these are set in the same universe. Like, apparently all of Rockstar's games are set in the same universe, but there's so much difference between all of them. So many, they're set in completely different locations. They don't really reference each other. They're set in different times, like Red Dead and then GTA, Bully, for example. So you don't really get that sense of connection. But this is the first time, really, we've seen a AAA game studio take like a product or a bunch of IPs they've got and say, we're going to put all this in the same universe and actually directly reference each game within the other games to create a grand story. And it's only got me thinking, like, when you think of like the MCU, for example, the way that's now, think about what you want about the MCU, and I've said plenty about the MCU sort of away from this podcast, but the kind of grand overarching story, or the idea of having this grand story that, you know, encompasses numerous games or films in the case of the MCU, is a really cool idea, and it gets to the end and it's like really satisfying in terms of like the MCU anyway. What Remedy are planning for the future, it makes me really excited to see where this is going to go.
Exactly, because traditionally we'd be waiting for an Alan Wake 3, for instance, to continue the story. But because they've opened it up to this connected universe, it could be a completely different game, a new IP that will tie in with the world and the universe and the story and everything. And it gives them so much freedom, so much creative, creative freedom they could come out with another game, completely new concept. Well, they are, aren't they? They are literally bringing out.
They're reviving a scrap game after the success of Alan Wake 2. So I don't know how that works because I think it's a new IP.
Yeah, but anything that Sam Lake seems to touch is just gold dust, because I did go back and play through all the old school Max Paynes. And then did Quantum Break. Well, I did Quantum Break first, then did the Max Paynes. And just the
Microsoft must be slamming their head against the wall.
Oh, mate,
because they ruined that relationship and they just like sold Quantum Break back to Remedy on the cheap.
Yeah. But yeah, it's incredible to see what a man. I mean, he's considered like an auteur now, isn't he, Sam Lake? And
I'd say so. Say so.
Anything that he touches is just blessed with his mind. It's just insane.
And he's been working in the industry for so long now. Like, people forget how old like the Max Payne games are, and like Remedy have had a stop-start sort of career. Like, you could tell that there's something with that studio, but it's never quite worked out. And they managed to do Control on $25 million, which you can't get anything greenlit in America for that sort of stuff now.
Just
these AAA games. And I don't think they've released the budget for Alan Wake 2, but it's not going to be much higher. I think
it's supposedly somewhere between $50 and $70 million, which is it's a relatively good chunk of money to obviously make a game. But you got AAA games out these days that cost $100 million plus $200 million. Like, look at everything Sony does and PlayStation do. Yeah, they make great games, but they're not cheap to make.
No, and like you look at the production value. Like if Remedy were obviously, I hope they stay independent. But if Alan Wake 2 come alongside Last of Us 2 and stuff like that, you'd go, oh no, they fit in with PlayStation Studios. The production level's there, and they've done it for a third of the budget. Like that art house sort of game. And the only slight issue that Alan Wake has is the combat's not as good as Control, which is weird to me. But that is the only thing I can you literally nitpicking. The combat's not too great.
It's a bit dry. I mean,
if I'm gonna kind of, my biggest problem, and it's not really a problem because I think at the end of the day I enjoyed the story so much in Alan Wake, and the puzzles as well were really interesting.
Yeah,
especially
they really were.
In Alan's parts when you're using his little torch thing to like change the light sources around, like that was all really cool. But the game is kind of spun as this survival horror, but they're really lenient on the survival aspects. I actually think they're too lenient. When you're playing the game on normal difficulty, for example, I found myself having like an absolute abundance of resources.
Yeah, and free time.
And free time that I hardly ever sort of like felt like I never really thought like there was a big threat.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite similar to a Resident Evil or like a modern Resident Evil game, isn't it? Very similar in the way it's played, the resource management. It literally is.
Inventory's the same.
Yeah, like it's a survival horror, like the new concept. So it is a good survival horror game. I haven't played Resident Evil 4 yet. I do plan to, but obviously, like we've just said, combat is a bit sparing and it's scary and sometimes it can be quite intense. And there's a lot of suspense, but there's so much suspense sometimes that you're kind of left like, am I going to have some combat now, maybe? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Still walking around.
I do think, like, obviously, I think people have to label things now. It's more of a psychological horror than anything.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so.
Like, it's not like, oh my God, this is shit in my pants scary, but it does, there's a tension, and the tension just keeps building and building. And
sorry, Colin, I was going to say, if you ever play a game like, has anyone ever played The Long Dark? Like, The Long Dark is not considered a horror game, but that, for me, is a survival horror game. It's fucking hellish when you're out there in the middle of that Arctic winter and you've got no resources. It's hard going. And that's kind of what I think of when I think of survival horror. I think Alan Wake is a little bit too, forgiving on that aspect. But, for me, that game was all about the presentation and the narrative, and like the acting as well was top notch. And, we can't sort of talk about Alan Wake without talking about that one moment in the fucking TV studio with Alan, the big musical number. I don't know if you've got that far yet, Connor, but I mean, this is...
I've seen it anyway.
They have easily delivered the best gaming moment of 2023, I think, with this. It completely threw me off guard. Wasn't expecting it. Loved every minute of it.
It was just an incredible amount of effort. Like, name me a game that has made their... I mean, there have been many games, but a game like this that had made their entire soundtrack just for the game, and each song references part of the story of the game, which was just mental. I listened to the whole soundtrack, and literally each individual song pretty much references what's going on in each chapter. It's mental.
Yeah. I was sitting in the case bit, and you turn on the radio. I was listening to Poe, The Mirror Is a Trap, on loop for 20 minutes. I was meant to be playing the game.
There's a band that exists in the world of this of the RCU called the Old Gods of Asgard. I think they are. I think Poets of the Fall, or I can't remember what the name is, but I think they're like a real band. Yeah. But then they're kind of playing this other fake band in the game. But they exist in the game because they're. I haven't got to the end of Control yet, but I hear there's another big musical number in Control, which is similar to the one we saw in Alan Wake. Something about a maze. But I'm not too sure because I haven't got that far. It might be in the DLC, actually. I don't know. Anyway,
probably.
So, the moment we're talking about is obviously we sing the chapter with Alan Wake in the studio. And I just want to give a shout out to David Harewood as well. The guy who plays Mr. Door is incredible. Like, he completely sold that sort of that charismatic kind of TV host, but then when you have the conversation with him towards the end of the game, it's like, oh my God, this guy is actually terrifying. Like there's something going on with this dude.
Scary. Like you would not want to be messing with this guy. Yeah, incredible acting. Just incredible. Like I can't sing. I mean, for me personally, I think Alan Wake 2 takes Game of the Year. For me personally, I just don't feel. I mean, I've not played every game. Not played Spider-Man. Not played Resident Evil. Not played Super Mario. Not played Zelda. Barely played Baldur's Gate. But I don't feel like there's been a game that's put so much effort into so many different extra components that of a traditional type of game it is. So obviously, there's a massive argument to say Baldur's Gate has done that, and I think it obviously rightfully also should take Game of the Year. But for me, Alan Wake 2, just everything it tried to do or dipped its fingers in, it did to the best of their
perfection.
Oh, absolutely. So I can't sing Alan Wake 2's praises high enough. And
I mean, it's always going to be a tough kind of like I feel a little bit bad for Remedy in some ways because Baldur's Gate, deservedly so, has got so much recognition for the game that it is, and it's a great game. I haven't completed it. I mean, at 2, I think I've spent about 60 or 70 hours or so in the game, which is quite a long time to spend on any game, to be honest. But this is a game that's got hundreds of hours of content. But I mean, no matter which way it goes, there's always going to be people that are upset, and I just feel like more people need to play Alan Wake and see this game to understand the level of kind of execution that Remedy have sort of put on display here, because much like Baldur's Gate 3 deserves all that praise and it deserves to have all those players playing it and enjoying it, I think Alan Wake 2 has been a little bit, unlucky in that regard, where it's not had the same amount of popularity, even though it truly, truly deserves it.
I mean, and then it makes me think, moving away from Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate, if you're talking about popularity, when you see Zelda in the running for the Game of the Year, that just makes me feel like, how many people have played Zelda, and then how many people have played Alan Wake 2?
Man, that game, Zelda has sold like 12 million copies or something ridiculous.
Exactly.
14 million copies
19 million.
Yeah.
So is it? Well, there you go then.
So when you compare just the amount of people who have never played Alan Wake 2, have played Zelda, where they're going to place their vote. So, I mean, I can't say anything about Zelda. I've not played a Zelda game ever. So, I don't know. I mean, I can see why it's in the top rankings. I personally don't really get it, but it's, I don't know. For me,
I think the thing with Zelda is, I mean, we won't spend too much time on it because I've only played a little bit of the game, but the thing about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which is pretty much in the same vein, is it's a game that's kind of like, obviously you look at it, it's very cartoony, it's maybe for children in some aspects, like a lot of kids play this game. However, the game design itself and the open world is really mature. It's really clever game design, and I think that's where it gets all of its praise from. The way you kind of explore and traverse the open world, the way you're kind of encouraged to go out there and explore, much like we say about, Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, or The Witcher 3. It's in that same sort of mold in terms of open world games. So I know you're not a fan of Zelda, Ben, you've never played it, but if you did ever get the chance to play Breath of the Wild and then perhaps Tears of the Kingdom, I do recommend the games because they are really interesting. If anything, they're the way the games are designed, the way you play them is something quite like unique, I think, with open world games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not like I'm not trying to say I hate them or dislike them. I've just never had the experience. I've never played them, so I just can't comment.
Yeah. But, I mean, there's obviously a lot of the nominations we haven't actually played between us, but there's a game that didn't get nominated at this year's Game of the Year awards that I wanted to talk about. A game that made a real big impression when it landed. Maybe for good in some aspects. Maybe for bad in some aspects, but for good in a lot of aspects as well. That game is Starfield. Starfield has kind of had a really weird sort of, I don't really want to call it a drop-off because I don't think it is a drop-off, but suddenly people feel really indifferent about Starfield for some reason. I'm not really sure I understand what's going on here because me personally, and I can only speak from experience, I've spent well over 100 hours on that game, completed the story, went into New Game Plus, did a shitload of ship building, shitload of exploration, a load of base building stuff, and enjoyed every single minute of the game. I have got really sort of like high praise for Starfield for being exactly what it is. A Bethesda RPG where you can basically do what you want. And for some reason now, people are kind of like, I mean, Xbox fans are upset that it's not been nominated. Everyone else is saying, well, it doesn't deserve to be nominated because it's hot garbage. I disagree with that. But yeah, it's kind of in a weird place. I mean, 8 million players on Game Pass, 2 million people playing during early access, and 1 million concurrent players at launch. The game was a hit. It is a hit.
Yeah. It was the event game of the year.
It was my most anticipated game of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Todd Howard hangover is real. After games, like I spoke about it, like I hate shitting on Bethesda because I want to love them, but the propaganda that went into Starfield, and you see like Pete Hines and Todd Howard going, "Oh yeah, it does this. We've got this. We've got that, and you can do this."
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah, and it does get expectations out of place, and
yeah,
he could sell water to like someone that was drowning.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like, he's such a good salesman and showcase, and he's a very good game designer. He's who he is, and he's been working in the industry for longer than I've been alive, probably. And he's fantastic. But there is this thing about Starfield where I don't think any game would have lived up to that expectation, because it's like Bethesda's first game in this long, like a new IP in this long. It's Xbox have just bought them, and Xbox are so good at doing those little like developer directs, and their marketing is incredible. Like, if they get behind a game, they get behind a game. You see it with Redfall, and obviously that's a different matter, but the way that they get behind games, and there was this big build up, that 40-odd minute presentation, and everyone was the internet, everything,
the whole world
everyone
watched
was
it.
still. Yeah, that's what it felt like. We were in that zeitgeist, and the whole world was watching Starfield. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I don't think any game would have. I think if Baldur's Gate had that sort of hype, if Alan Wake 2 had that sort of hype, it wouldn't have lived up to it. The only people that could do that, and they don't do too much press, is Nintendo, because they've been in people's lives for 50 years or even longer. They've been around since the 1800s. There's magic about Nintendo.
Yeah. I mean, I think Starfield suffered from width but no depth. You could do a lot of stuff in Starfield. You could go to hundreds of planets, and you could, like, I don't know, I can't even think of everything you can do in the
loads,
game.
but you can do fuck all at the same time.
That's it. You can do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But when you then do that, there's not much else to it. So you can go to lots of different planets, but then when you get there, it's kind of like, what do you do now? You're on some barren world. And I get it. There's a lot of planets in real life that if you were to visit, the majority of all planets are barren, wasteland, you know what I mean? Just
and will kill you as soon as you land on them.
But
yeah.
And I get that. Obviously, that's part of nature. That's how the game represents the future and so on. But
space travel and stuff.
Yeah, the game promised us so much, and you could do everything they said you could do, but the game was
only to like a little degree of what you thought you could do.
And they let your imagination really take control. Like, I thought I would be playing this game every day for the rest of my life, because I was like, there's going to be so much to do. There's so many planets to go to. And then you play it, you start exploring, you kind of feel like, I don't know, it's getting a bit repetitive now. Let's try something else.
I was thinking this, like they promised so much, and they put so much effort into like the procedurally generated planets, but it was fucking lazy. There was times in the story where I'd do side missions, I've seen the same base 7 times.
Yeah.
And it's the same enemies, and they're shit because they're shooting at walls. And
I don't even understand, like, so speaking of the enemies, the fucking, what are they called? The eclectic or the eclipse or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Some sort of brand of like space enemy. I didn't even understand what their problem was. I didn't even know why we were beefing them. Why are they shooting me? I didn't understand who they were.
I saw a video of some guy who was being told to stand down, and they were just shooting at him and he couldn't do anything. Talking about lazy as well, the level design. I was so unimpressed. When I went to the city of Neon for the first time, and you're in the ship camera before you exit, and you can do a bit of panning around and stuff, and you kind of, if you panned around, you kind of spoilt the sense of depth that the game was trying to fake. And you realised that this city of Neon was like, again, really wide, but had no depth to it. And when you start walking around and you realise that this is like literally a massive oil rig city underground of the entire universe as we know it, literally the underground place to go, and it's like one oil rig. I don't know, the game didn't give me any sense of like impressive scale. I wanted this city of neon. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but in Destiny, you go to like Mercury or one of... it's basically a massive water planet, and it's got this massive dome that you go in. It's in Destiny 2. But when you stand outside of this like facility and you look left, and this fucking dome goes on as far as the eye can see, and then you look right and this dome goes on as far as the eye can see, you get a sense of immense scale, and you think that yes, okay, if this is the only underground city in all of space, then yeah, that makes sense. But then you go to this tiny little oil rig, and it's like there's 4 fucking car parking spots for the spaceships. Do you know how long that queue would be? I've thought to myself, imagine if you went to Tesco and there's 4 fucking car parking spots. There'd be a queue for days. So
and it's like like Ben, you've played the Mass Effect games, and I think you played a bit of them. Like that come out, Mass Effect 2 come out in like 2008, and the Citadel feels bigger than Neon.
Yeah,
and the Citadel
cool.
is like 3 floors, but there's more going on in those 3 floors than Neon. And then you get to like Ocala, and it's just like, oh, it's this tiny. There's all this space that you can walk around, which you do walk around.
Yeah, that's the thing that I find like very strange about these planets is that like, you know, why is there just one city on a planet?
Yeah.
Like if that planet's been populated, there would be numerous cities on that planet. I think the problem is, for the sake of trying to kind of like capture that magic and that romance of like launching off into space, going into the stars and exploring, finding planets, they really didn't pay enough attention and care to what you were doing when you were on the planets, what you were doing when you were in the cities. They blew the whole thing out, made it as big as they could make it, but it ended up being really empty. And it literally only takes you maybe to the 5th or 6th time of landing on a planet and seeing the same facility where it does start to feel repetitive. It does start to feel like, I've seen this before. Don't get me wrong. There are some epic moments in Starfield. Yeah, there are. And I really enjoyed what I played of the game, obviously. Like, I actually think behind Alan Wake 2, Starfield was probably my 2nd favourite game of the year. And I'd say that because I don't spend 100 hours on a game because I don't enjoy it. Obviously, I enjoyed it. But I feel like if they had shrunk the universe down to maybe, I don't know, a handful of solar systems.
This is something you said towards the
beginning,
beginning,
with only like 30 planets max in the game. They were all way more handcrafted, way more tailored. They could have exactly the same mechanics in the game. Like, you can't get to that solar system over there because you don't have the right ship parts to it. You don't have the right technology to get over there. They can still keep all of that in the game, but just shrink it down and spend more resources on tailoring an experience on those planets, because the experience you get when you're on something, like, there are moments, like I remember when I went to the moon for the first time, like Earth's moon, went there for the first time, stepped off, and it was awesome. Looking out, seeing the stars, like it's black, pitch black out there, you're looking out and there's nothing there, it's barren, it's kind of freaky, kind of scary, but at the same time it's incredibly just amazing to see that.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, outside of those amazing vistas, what is there on like the smaller scale that's going to be kind of impressive and give you that same sense of awe? I mean, there isn't really anything.
Talking about the planets and attention to detail and so on, like you say, if there were less planets but more detailed, imagine you go to a planet and there's like an actual mountain range, because I felt like in Starfield, no mountain went higher than like a few hundred feet. Like there was no, there's mountains on Earth. Like I want to land on an alien planet that has caverns that go down and mountain ranges that go up. I want to see some incredible spectacles. But no matter what planet you landed on, there was a very much a height limit. Nothing was ever going to go too much higher. Nothing was ever going to go too low. There was no real sense of scale. Like, I know this is a bit sort of a strange thing to think about, but do you remember the trailer for the game that began with EA completely flopped, flying Iron Men?
Anthem.
Oh, Anthem. And that spectacle when you're like looking over the edge and you get the sense of the planet. And I know it's all fake and part of the whole lie that they were selling. Anyway, tying it back to just how impressive that looks. When I landed on a planet, it literally felt like I landed on like a little marble, and there was nothing on it, and there was no great vistas. There's no view. There's no nothing. There's no incredible standing on a mountain and looking over valleys for as far as the eye can see. There's none of that. It's just a relatively flat marble, and you're looking over no matter what planet you land on.
And I actually tried quite hard. So when I built my base for the first time, I tried quite hard to find something like that. Something that had like maybe a mountain. It took me, I did find a coast, like with an ocean and everything, but it took me a long time to find that. And I mean, I don't know, it's a weird one, because I don't think Starfield is deserving to be nominated for Game of the Year. I don't think it is at all. I don't think that it does anything kind of like, when you compare it to the games we spoke about already, Baldur's Gate and Alan Wake, it's nowhere near that level of execution or enjoyment. Well, enjoyment maybe is subjective, but you know, it's a weird one for me, because I did have fun on it. Yeah. But it's got so many flaws. There are so many things wrong with that game, and it's weird to have spent so much time on a game that you did enjoy, and you don't really regret spending that much time on it, but you kind of look back on it and think, there's so many things wrong with this, and if they had just changed these couple of little things, and it wouldn't have been anywhere near as bad of an experience as what people were saying it is now.
Yeah.
I knew the moment that it kicked. It was when I was playing it, and it's just got worse. Like thinking about the. Sorry to cut you off, Ben.
No, not at all.
Like thinking about the game is obviously there was that big hype about New Game Plus, game changes, New Game Plus. Pete Hines and Todd Howard sitting there going New Game Plus, like this, and I was going through the mission, and do you know when you go through them temples? Every temple was the fucking same. The entrance was on the same.
That was lazy as well. They could have made every temple a different puzzle. Yeah. Even that would have made it a better experience.
Yeah. And you go there, and one of them travellers turn up. You kill them. They're fucking easy to kill. And then you walk in, and it's left hand side. Oh, go down there. Yeah. And I got to like the third or fourth one, and it was just autopilot. And this game's meant to be. Obviously, they want you to get to New Game Plus, and they make things easy. But it's meant to be about like exploring space and different dimensions, and go in there, float around a bit, follow this fucking thing over here. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Isn't it?
And it's just they've put so much effort into the game, but they've taken so many fucking shortcuts. And I want to go in and just slap Todd Howard across the face and go, look, you are so good at what you fucking do, but you're so fucking lazy at times. Yeah. Fallout's the same. Skyrim's the fucking same in the story. And people have gone back to Skyrim, and it's because these towns are handcrafted and people love them, and it's a world you can get lost in.
You can believe it.
Outer Worlds came out years ago, and it's by Obsidian, and it's nothing like Starfield. But you go to cities, there's charm. People have got... The dialogue is so much better than previous Bethesda games, but it pales in comparison to other games in that genre. And it's... What are you doing? This game could have been the best game of all time. Yeah. Hands down. Easily.
I mean, like, going back to the city, for instance, I'm talking, like, thinking about what you're saying about what the team are doing. I can imagine they built what's the main city settlement?
Jemison.
Jemison. They say it's the biggest city that they've ever done, and it's fucking not big.
Like it. It doesn't feel like it's the biggest city they've ever done. I felt
like they could have built that city in a week, and they've been making this game for years. So what happened to the team who made this city in a week? What were they then doing? Because I don't know. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. If you look at the fucking like little tiny assets and stuff in the game, like you can't like the game's incredibly detailed. When you zoom down into like ship components and like if you can literally look at a panel of your ship inside with the buttons on it, it looks insane. You look at like a sandwich on the table, it's insanely detailed.
With that
sandwich,
but
it's like why have you gone to so much effort over things like that when the actual gameplay experience itself is really kind of lazy and like repetitive?
Yeah. Speaking of that sandwich, like, so this is a bit of inside baseball. I used to I studied game development for a little while, and I used 3DS or IMAX. I think that's the name of it. It might have changed by now, but this is where you'd make assets and you'd put them into levels and stuff like that. There's like indices and polygons on that sandwich that I've seen that they've come out. And when you make assets for games, it's meant to be try and take out as many of these lines as possible, because it just takes up fucking RAM and it makes things difficult. And if you look at the polygonal view of that sandwich, there's lines coming off. They've sat there for like probably days crafting this fucking thing, and it's why have you spent so much time on a fucking sandwich when this biggest city you've ever made is a stone's throw?
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember thinking about it at the time. I don't want to talk about Starfield forever, but I remember thinking they really limited themselves with like the open world, because the reason why, in my mind, and I'm pretty certain that this is true, the reason why the cities are so small is because they obviously wanted the player to be able to jump out the front door and go and explore, and they were obviously limited by how big of a city that they could make. They couldn't go ahead and make a Coruscant from fucking Star Wars. They'd spend all year making that. Or, you know what I mean? It would just be way too big. So they made something that was small and condensed so that the player could then just jump over the wall and go and have an explore. But that's where I really felt like they shot themselves in the foot by making that like a core sort of requirement for the game. You can't then allow yourselves to make cities much larger, because you're giving the player an explorable outer area. You needed the city to be a individual separate map, and then just fool me with a skybox that surrounds me, that shows a city going off into the distance. Show me like some picture, like every game has done in the past, that makes it look like that.
Because they've said you can explore any
fucking
speck on the planet.
Because they've shot themselves in the foot and said that. So
have you ever? When you're on that when you're at Jemison, has anyone ever hopped the wall and ran away for a bit and turned around and looked at the sea, because it looks ridiculous? It's a massive, big, empty, open space just with this city just sat there. Yeah. And it's like, where's the rest of civilization? We're talking about the whole of humanity here. Where is everyone?
This is the home of humanity. This is. New York isn't even the home of humanity. Tokyo isn't the home of humanity. London isn't the home of humanity. You expect me to think that an entire fucking planet has left into space, and Jemison is like the home, and you couldn't even fit where I live in that city.
And like you go to a killer and it's meant to be like this sort of cowboy thing or whatever, and obviously there's where the city is and you've got something over there. Why isn't it just random houses dotted about with like farms, just to make it feel like it's like the Old West? And because it's real easy to do.
I mean, I get it. Around. Like, I know, I understand why you can't, circumnavigate the entire planet, like walk around. I understand that, but the sandbox you land in when you're in Aquila City or Jemison or whatever, they should at least expand that out. So like when you're in the city, like you say, Connor, if you're looking over the edge. Or across over the walls in Aquila, you see farmland out there. You see work going on. If you're in Jemison, you see a fucking massive solar farm or a wind farm in the distance, people working on it. Why is there not that stuff that you can see and interact with? It's literally just the city walls. Then outside of that, there's nothing. And then when you get to like a distant planet with nothing on it, it's even worse. It's just the nothing without the city on it. It's just the nothing in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to fucking poo-poo Starfield because I did actually enjoy it. Even though we just slagged it off for half an hour.
But it is a good game. It's just a shame.
And I'm hoping it's a game that obviously we know from what we know about Bethesda. You come back to this game in 5 years, it's going to be a completely different experience. It's going to be so many more added features to it. And like Skyrim's a 10-year-old game with 10 years worth of content in it. I mean, hopefully Starfield can make it that long as well, and we can have this discussion years down the line and be saying completely different things about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the other games I wanted to talk about as well, because kind of a big snub this one. I think we know why the reasons are, but Hogwarts Legacy was without a doubt, well, it was the second biggest game launch of the year behind Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. Tears of the Kingdom, I think you said sold 18, 19 million copies. Right? And Hogwarts Legacy, 15 million copies.
Yeah, it's overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, by the way, as well.
Yeah, so completely snubbed of awards. I don't think it even got nominated for one thing at the Game Awards. I don't think it's really been nominated for much across many of the awards.
No, it got 0 nominations.
And I think it's a little bit unfair for the game developers because, again, Hogwarts Legacy is a game that we all played and we all really enjoyed. And it's just been completely ignored. And I kind of get it, because there's a lot of baggage that comes with this game. There's a lot of controversy that comes with this game, which I guess in some sense as well is a reason why people shouldn't get too upset about the Game Awards and other award ceremonies not giving your game, or what you think is a game that deserves a recognition, not giving it to them, because
it's such a shame. Yeah, it's such a shame that politics are involved, because there's no way they're not including the Hogwarts Legacy.
And J.K. Rowling, that's causing all these issues, has fuck all to do with portkey games. She has nothing to do with the game. She's not involved in the slightest.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's unfair for the developers, because they like. Okay, so we talk about Baldur's Gate and Alan Wake, especially Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate is a game that you play and you can tell the developers have poured every ounce of love they've got into that game. They have really poured over this game, put everything they've got into it. When I look at Hogwarts Legacy and play the game, I can tell the developers care about the game through what I'm playing.
Yeah.
And I know that they understand the world of Harry Potter, the Wizarding World, and they've really done a great job in portraying that into a game. And I remember when the game came out and we were all playing it for the first time, and one of the things we said was, I never imagined in a million years I would see a game in the Wizarding World like this. AAA, big budget, just so much fucking character and charm. Everything you could ever imagine from a game set in this universe, this game, Hogwarts Legacy, basically delivered it.
Yeah, it had everything that we wished for, or at least I wished for as a kid, about a game that I'd want to see in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And the developers absolutely nailed it. The launch was flawless. There was no problems on launch, or as far as I can remember.
Very minimal, if there was.
Yeah, minimal.
Yeah,
the game was absolutely gorgeous. The level design, the fucking item design, the house design, the interior design, the Hogwarts, the fucking everything design was absolutely impeccable. Like, I would actually walk into
Hogwarts Castle is one of the best things I've seen in a game.
Yeah,
hands down, fucking incredible.
Just insane. And I'd walk around. What's the little town called? Hogsmeade. And you could walk into each and every building, and there was absolute zero copy and paste. Every single building was handcrafted independently and individually. Super impressive. Then you had the game mechanics. The game ran great. It felt great. The combat was fun. It was like playing fucking Batman back in the day, stringing combos together.
It was tight. Yeah.
The combat was tight. That was definitely one of the plus sides of the game.
Yeah. And then the only thing that was missing was fucking Quidditch, and they're adding that in, or they're developing it now. Don't know if it's going to be a separate thing, but But yeah, I thought it was an incredible game, and it is such a travesty not to celebrate what the developers have done and even nominate them.
Even just for art design. Just for the Hogwarts Castle alone, it's like you said, it's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Exploring parts of the castle that I wanted to go to when I was a kid.
Yeah,
and it obviously, it's a fucking pun, but there is that magic to that game where it's. I've been reading these books and I've watched these films, and it's a massive cultural phenomenon. And we very rarely see, how many adaptations do we see, and they suck.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Portkey Games, and they've worked with Warner Brothers. They've probably got people from the films involved in some aspect. Just the little details, and I'm so excited to see what they do next with this franchise.
Me too. The only thing that makes me not get really fucking pissed off about them not getting nominated for anything is just how successful it's been. Thank fuck it sold well, because good on you guys for making something that has made you a ton of money, because you deserve it.
It was like the most watched game on Twitch ever at one point, wasn't it?
Probably.
Something like that. It's something crazy. It's putting in some crazy numbers in streaming and stuff. And I think, I don't really want to get too much into this, because it's quite a bit of a controversial topic for a lot of people. And I understand people's points of view, and I understand why they would want to boycott this game, particularly as it's obviously we know J.K. Rowling was not involved in the production of this game whatsoever, but she owns the franchise. She owns the Wizarding World. So one way or another, she's going to be involved in any conversation you have about this game. Mm-hmm. And I get why people don't want to have the conversations. I get why they want to push this game aside and kind of not be a part of it. And it's completely fair and valid for people to feel that way. And I actually empathize with people, especially if you're a gamer and you love Harry Potter, but you completely disagree with everything J.K. Rowling kind of stands for and has said, as most of us do.
Yeah.
It's a tough decision to be in, because for a lot of people, especially at our age group, like Harry Potter is such a big part of my life growing up. It's a key part of my life, really. And, all the things it's that sense of magic and awe that you get, from watching the films and reading the books when you're a child. And it's weird to be in a situation now where you feel like you can't love something because of one person.
Yeah.
So for me, the only thing I can really do is try to separate the art from the artist. And I think I don't want to tell people they should be doing it. I don't want to say, it's unfair for you to kind of tar it all with the same brush. But there are people who worked in this game, the developers who worked in this game, who don't share the same views as J.K. Rowling.
Of course, yeah.
Who poured everything they love about this franchise into this game, wanted to make a really positive experience for people. And I think that they did do that in the purest sense of the word. And those people deserve to be praised for what they've achieved, because I think they've fundamentally, at the end of it, just created a great game. And it's not very, it's a little bit unfair that they're not kind of being recognised for doing that. I can understand it, but at the same time, things like a game as successful as Hogwarts Legacy doesn't come around that often.
No.
So, not a brand new IP either.
No.
Like,
and nail it.
Obviously, Harry Potter's going to have a brand new game franchise, and
what everything that game allowed you to do. Like, it wasn't just a small game. This was a full open world.
And Avalanche have not been at their best these last couple of years. They had a bit of a dip since Mad Max, and I hope they have a proper bounce back. Obviously, with that, it's just. Yeah, I feel it's the developers I feel sorry for, because they've been dragged into something. They probably knew it was coming, and I think Warner Brothers would have briefed them, especially about what was going on. But and obviously they're getting a lot of love from people that played the game. But this is our generation's Star Wars, and to have it tarnished by one horrible woman. And these people have got death threats, I'm sure, and being called this, that, and the third in their DMs for making a wonderful game. So it's even just like an art direction nomination, just something would have been nice.
Yeah. Well, pivoting away from Hogwarts Legacy, I mean, we've talked about some of the biggest games of the year, but there are still many other games that have come out this year that we've all played and enjoyed. So I want to talk about some other games that have not necessarily been nominated or getting as much attention.
Colin,
what's been your
not Colin?
What have been your highlights for this year aside from the games that we've spoken about?
It's been an excellent year for gaming, hasn't it? 2023. So we've really been spoiled. I don't mind kicking it off with some of my favourites.
Yeah, go.
So, Dead Space remake. Obviously, it's a remake. And not a full brand new game. But what the developers did is they quite literally took something that wasn't broke and just made it better.
I thought this was going to get nominated for
I
Game of
did
the
too.
Year at the beginning of the year.
I don't know if it
and
did get
Resident
nominated.
Evil 4 is a fucking direct remake, dude.
Exactly. It's the same sort of bread and butter, really. It's just the same thing. But yeah, I think Dead Space got nominated for Best Audio Design and Best Action Game. But yeah, just an excellent example of taking something that once again isn't broke and then actually improving it, because they didn't just rebuild the bones of a game that's maybe over 10 years old now. They actually took everything apart, completely rebuilt it and put it back together better. So you had, for instance, in the first game, it was kind of you working your way through a linear story. You're not much deviating off the path, even though it didn't really feel like you were tied to going in one direction. You felt you had some kind of freedom. In this new remake, you could explore the entire ship anytime you liked. There was a real sense of like, I've been here before, but because I can come back here at any time, and technically so can the enemies, nowhere was safe. There was no clearing this section and coming back later and I've been here, everyone's dead, it's fucked up. Like, there was so many new systems at play. Like, you had brand new gore. I can't remember what they called it. It was like shredding or something like that, where the layers of the enemy necromorph's skin were fucking layered. So if you shot them once, you might take off a few layers, and then the bone is like, it was proper the most graphic, gory game you could imagine. The whole game was incredible. Definitely deserves some. I think audio's design is a good one. Best action game too. I don't think it'll win it, but it's it was really good.
I hope this leads them to go back, because I know that studio's got major issues with Dead Space 3. They don't like it.
Yeah.
So I hope they can remake 2 the way they've done 2, and then redo 3 in their like a director's cut version. I think that would be really cool. So they can finish the trilogy how they want to.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I'd love to see. I think they did maybe tease that they are starting to remake the other 2 potentially. They literally put out a survey that was like, do you want Dead Space 2 and 3 to be remade? I think they literally asked a black and white question saying that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
After like one of the best games of the year.
Yeah.
This is one on my... the Dead Space franchise has eluded me. But I think it's on Game Pass now, I think.
I think you might be right, actually. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
they've got the partnership with EA, haven't they? So you can get games on Game Pass.
I know, Ben, you speak so highly of these games that I definitely want to play Dead Space.
I mean, it's one of those. It's obviously it is on the Game Pass. It's I'm not huge on horror games. I maybe play them slightly more frequently, but I'm not. It's not my go-to. I definitely don't play horror games for fun. But Dead Space, I remember playing it younger, and it was like a real good. It was scary, but it wasn't too much, and it was like. It made me jump and thrilled, but it wasn't too much. It was a good balance
of like
horror
sort of.
Yeah, it really was. And the way I put it before is, it's like a game where people and enemies will scare the shit out of you. Go ahead and fucking fuck them up. Do you know what I mean? Something jumps out of you and makes you jump. Blow their fucking limbs off. So it's kind of got a good balance of, oh, you wanker, you made me jump. There go all your arms. So, but anyway, it's a good game. I haven't really got
at some point.
Yeah, I haven't really got much of. I played Hi-Fi Rush. I don't want to spoil it. 004. I thought I'd love that more. I definitely didn't.
That game took over 2 weeks.
004 was just so weird. That little 2 weeks.
I loved
Diablo
it for
4
2
was
weeks.
really strange because I haven't touched it since then.
Yeah.
Poured hours into it, and it's like
Spent
nothing that I've seen about the game now makes me want to go back to it at all.
And then they started moving the buy where the buy button was, and like, oh, by the way, we're going to wipe all your progress after this point. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah. You're doing too much, man. Just fucking just leave it.
It's the monetization again. Obviously goes back to EA and stuff like that. It's like Blizzard have made this game, and it is Blizzard, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Diablo.
Yeah.
And they've made this game, and I've never played a Diablo game, and I want to go back if it's because I had such a great time with Diablo 4 for those 2 weeks, and then you could just say, right, you're hooked. Now we're gonna take as much money off you as possible. Here's these skins. Here's this. Oh, by the way, your progress is going to be completely wiped this season. So then, but you can always do this, and that'll give you something. It's like, fuck you. Just let me play the game, because at its core, that is a solid game.
Yeah,
and it's just monetization is just rip the soul out of it.
Yeah. It's weird how monetizing the game like that and having like season passes and skins in the store and everything can really drastically change a game. Because, like you say, the core of that game is a real fun time. It's a real great experience. And like we talk about presentation of games as well. Again, Diablo 4, cutscenes, everything, voice acting, really well presented game, runs great, looks great. And then they just can't help but stick this storefront in your face. Buy the battle pass, buy the season pass, buy the skins. It's like, just let's play the fucking game, man.
Yeah, you got to make me love the game first. Like, and this is a bit of a tangent, but like, I'd never really put much money into games until I started playing Valorant. Valorant got me because I really enjoyed the game, and then putting money into the game felt like, well, I'm enjoying this game, and the game's for free. I kind of felt like I was getting my money's worth. I realise now what a mistake that was, but it's like it was the right way round to do it. I started to really enjoy the game, thus I put money into it. Start shoving the fucking store in my face the moment I press play.
Or I've even had a chance to fucking play it.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace, honestly. Like, it's so fucking irritating to Like, I've barely fucking touched the game. I've been on it 5 minutes and there's already like, oh, here's the storefront and center. Like, fuck off.
I mean,
even though you play the game.
Yeah, even though I was singing the praises of Gears of War 5 earlier, that did a bit of a. The moment I pressed play, it was like, Battle Pass, buy this. There's you can buy cash now. Take this money. You can spend money now, and it's like, oh, I have no idea. I've just launched the game for the first, so it was a bit of a, oh no, don't go down this road, please.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Connor, any
I've
hits,
got loads.
super hits for you this year? Go on.
I had to cut back.
List them off.
I really think if Risk of Rain Returns come out earlier on in the year, it might have been in my like top 5. Really enjoying that. Remnant 2, I really enjoyed. I thought there was after the first one, sort of, I got to play for free, I think, on Epic for a while. Second one's great, and I need to put more time into that. And I love the world of that game and what they're doing. Sons of the Forest.
That's fun. It's fun.
I had such fun playing that game.
I kind of forgot about that game.
And they're constantly adding it, and it's constantly being patched. I had so much fun playing that game, and it's sort of stuck out. And then the other two that I would put in my like top 5 or would be up for Game of the Year would be Dredge and Dave the Diver.
Dredge is a good game. I haven't played Dave the Diver.
Dredge is for those who don't know, is a Lovecraftian fishing game. And it's a real simple gameplay loop. You go out, catch fish, you go and sell it, upgrade your ship.
But you know when you sail back and like the sun's going down, it's actually quite intense. Yeah, like you're rushing to get back to the fucking harbour, wherever it is you want to dock up, and then you can see the little like, the sun's going down, and like the little fucking all-seeing eye is like seeing everything. So.
And then things are like, it looks like you're tripping a little bit, and things are shaking, and it's
I really want to play it.
It's so good, dude. You can do it in 10 hours, and they've got DLC,
like I said, like real simple gameplay loop, but oftentimes like they're the best games to the most fun. Really simple. You go out, catch fish, try and survive the night.
You have that, and like there's 5 different biomes. It's not a big game, 5 different biomes, and there's they've all got their own little secrets to explore and different types of fish. But it is that if you go out during the night, there's this like real cosmic horror aspect to the game. Yeah. But it's risk and reward, because you can go out and like your psyche will be completely messed up, but you'll get bigger fish that sell for more. So you can do your boat up. And there's like little like boss sort of things. It's fantastic. You can do it in like 10 hours, dude. It's really such a good game, and the art style is brilliant, and I can't wait to see what that
perfect for the Steam Deck, Ben. Next time you're off out,
And the other one again, down to gameplay loop, Dave the Diver, incredible. It's just you split your time.
I don't really know much about Dave the Diver. I'm going to admit this game has got overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. Tens of thousands of people have played, but I know nothing about it. Don't you own like a sushi bar or something? You have to go dive for fish.
You do. You spear fish, and then you take your catches, deliver them to the sushi place in the evening, and then you have a chef, and you go and take the orders to people. Is it
kind of like a resource management / like
kind of, but it's very simplistic.
I don't know how to describe it.
But you can upgrade your suits, you can dive deeper, and there's like quest lines through different things. And it's just
it looks nuts, dude. The trailer is all over the place. It looks like 5 different games.
It's so good, and I don't know how they've done it, because it's such a simple gameplay loop. Go and fish, come back, take food to a customer, and
your two of your favourite games of the year revolve around fishing.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
Fucking great. But honestly, like the independent indie games this year have been incredible. They always are.
Yeah, Sea of Stars is another small game by Indie Dev, which is a great game.
It's beautiful, and Oxenfree 2 is so good. Obviously, I know they've been bought by Netflix now, but it's so good. And I played a game the other day called Heretics Fork, and you play as someone who's like, it's just a click tower defense game. I lost 3 hours. It cost me like a certain amount. And you see Lethal Company, £8. And it's 100,000 concurrent players, and it's like all these cuts and layoffs this year, but there's so many talented people out there making games.
I mean, I saw people concerned about the fact that obviously it's been an excellent year for gaming, thus it's going to drive prices of publishers and everything through the roof because obviously gaming is really popping off right now. What's the little man going to do to stand out? But then you have games like Dave the Diver and Lethal Company that come through, and it's
you
like...
look at last year, you had Cult of the Lamb, obviously published by Devolver Digital, and I implore people to go and look at publishers like Devolver Digital, because like there's years where AAA games are dog shit, and like last year, for example, if you don't go on Steam regularly or find sites like Eurogamer or Metacritic and go and just look at some of these independent games, because there's so much talent out there. And I think Lethal Company's made by like one guy or a couple of people, and it's a hit. It's such a good space to be in right now with these engines out there that people can use.
Yeah, I think it is made by one guy, Lethal Company.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's a story you love to hear.
Yeah, how about you, James? Any standouts for you that haven't quite made it?
It's weird really, because I've played quite a lot of games this year. Most of which we've already spoken about, but I just feel like, for me, since like 3 weeks ago, this whole year now, it's just been about Alan Wake.
Yeah,
like that is the game for me this year. That's the best game I've played for a long time. The most kind of like impressed I've been by a game since probably Red Dead Redemption 2, and I mean, I've played a lot of games this year. I actually, contrary to what your Steam reviews might say, I really enjoy Forza Motorsport. I'm not a racing sim guy. Don't really play racing sims, but Forza, good. Spent a lot of hours in that. I really enjoyed that. I think Hi-Fi Rush you mentioned as well, Ben. Hi-Fi Rush is an excellent game too. That's like, that was one of the most pleasant surprises I think of the year. Just come out of nowhere, stealth dropped, and a really solid experience. Great little game,
like
something
that.
a little bit different. And I haven't spent enough time on it, but Lies of P is a game that I plan to play.
Yeah, I need to give that
soon.
a go.
I
did not realise the Forza Motorsport reviews were that bad. What the heck?
Yeah, I don't understand it because maybe it's because I'm not part of like the Forza racing sim thing. I mean, if for example, kind of if we went and look at the FC24 reviews and they're all fucking through the floor, we know why they're shit. We know why that game sucks. But someone else might think, oh, yeah, this is actually pretty good. But yeah, with Forza, it's really weird. I don't understand why it's been so badly reviewed, and I don't have the context of previous Forza games to sort of judge it against. I'm just literally playing this with fresh eyes. Like, I've never really played a mainline Forza game before. I played Forza Horizon 4 and 5. But the racing sim, Forza Motorsport, never played it. But I really like the game. I think it's a great game.
Interesting.
Don't know what people...
I vaguely looked at the reviews the other day. You mentioned this to me the other day, James, because you played it, and you said, I don't know what those Steam reviews are going on about. And there's people in the comments like harkening back to like Forza Motorsport 2 on like the 360. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, game, they change, and obviously people take their simulation games seriously, and
make comparisons.
There's no context whatsoever.
I think it's been like more greatly received on Xbox compared to PC. I think PC's got a few problems as well. I think that's one of the other things. I never experienced really any problems with the game myself, but that's one of the sort of things you see recurring, especially on the Steam reviews. I don't know if it's a Steam platform thing or what.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I don't know. There's issues with like certain games being ported. Well, we've seen it all year.
Yeah,
poor fucking ports on PC. But
sometimes different versions get uploaded to Steam and Xbox Game Pass. I had it in the past where one game was like DirectX 10 on Xbox Game Pass, but if you played it through Steam, it was like DirectX 11, which was notoriously better.
Weird. Yeah.
I forgot, obviously, Jusant as well, made by the people that made Life is Strange Download. That's such a chill game, and it's just a perfect game to jump into, and you just climb in, atmospheric, very good. And you've got 2 Like a Dragon games that's like pretty much just gone to Game Pass, like the Yakuza series.
2 to add to the existing 30.
Huh?
2 to add to the existing 30.
Oh mate, that studio's that game was meant to be DLC, and they made a fully fledged game in 6 fucking
They
months.
pump out 2-3 games every year, man. They just
that studio is just like pumped with Red Bull. I think they're just cracking games out left, right, and centre.
Well, I think, on the whole, 2023 has been a really, really good year for games, and I think we've been very spoiled, like you say, Ben, and quite rightly as well. We've had a great year. I'm not sure about the Game Awards. I don't know who's going to win what, and personally, I don't care because of the games that I have played this year, I've really enjoyed myself, and I encourage anyone listening to this to not get too caught up in, you know, the kind of concept of this game versus that game at the Game Awards. If the game you love and you think deserve exactly, play the games for yourself, enjoy them. If you don't enjoy it, move on to something else. No one's forcing you to play it. Having said that, lads, been a great chat as always, and I think we'll wrap it up there because we're going on to an hour and a half now, so it's getting a bit long. But yeah, if you enjoyed the show, check out the link in the description. You can see us on Discord. You can join our community over there. You can see our YouTube channel, all our socials, all sorts of other things as well. Thank you for listening, and yeah, I guess we'll catch you next time.
Gollum Game of the Year robbed.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.